The door to Lord Blackwood's study burst open with such force that Clara jumped. Her teacup rattled against its saucer. Hot liquid splashed onto her worn grey dress, but she barely noticed. She was too busy staring at the tall figure filling the doorway. "Out!" Lord Blackwood commanded. His voice cut through the quiet room like a blade through silk. "Everyone out, now." The housekeeper fled. The butler disappeared into the shadows. Clara stood frozen by the window, her heart hammering against her ribs. She clutched the teacup so hard, her knuckles turned white. "You as well, Miss Hartley." His dark eyes found hers across the room. Something in his gaze made her stomach twist. Leave, but she couldn't move. Her feet felt nailed to the floor. She had spent 3 months in this house as governess to his young daughter. 3 months of careful invisibility. 3 months of making herself small and quiet and forgettable. Now he was looking at her, really looking at her, and she wished the floor would swallow her whole. "I said leave." His tone softened slightly. "Just slightly. Please." That single word unlocked her frozen limbs. Clara set down the teacup with trembling hands. She hurried toward the door, keeping her eyes down. As she passed him, she caught the scent of rain and leather. He had been riding. His dark hair was damp. Water droplets clung to his coat. She made it 3 steps past him when his hand caught her arm. "Wait." Clara's breath stopped. His fingers were warm. Through the thin fabric of her sleeve, she could feel each individual fingertip pressing gently against her skin. Her pulse thundered in her ears. "I apologize," he said quietly. "That was rude. I have had difficult news, but I should not take my anger out on you." She dared to look up. His face was all hard angles and shadows, strong jaw, high cheekbones, eyes the color of storm clouds. He was handsome in a way that made her chest ache. But it was the sadness in those eyes that made her forget to breathe. "It is quite all right, my lord," she managed to whisper. "We all have difficult days." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition. His hand fell away from her arm, leaving cold emptiness behind. "Yes," he murmured. "We do." Clara fled before he could say anything else. She ran up the servants' stairs to the nursery where little Isabel waited for her afternoon lessons. Her heart was still racing. Her arm still tingled where he had touched her. She was 25 years old and had never been touched so gently by a man. Not once in her entire life. The thought made her want to laugh and cry at the same time. Clara had not always been a governess. Once she had been the daughter of a gentleman, not wealthy, but respectable. She had worn pretty dresses and attended local assemblies. She had dreamed of marriage and children and a home of her own. Then her father died. The debts came to light, mountains of debt that swallowed everything. Her mother's brother had taken them in. Uncle Gerald, a cruel man with a crueler wife. They made it clear that Clara and her mother were burdens, charity cases, less than servants, because servants at least earned their keep. "You're too old," Aunt Beatrice said every chance she got. 25 and not even pretty. Who would want you? You should be grateful we don't throw you out on the street. Her cousins were worse. Margaret and Dorothy were younger and prettier. They delighted in making Clara feel small. They laughed at her outdated dresses. They mocked her needlework. They whispered cruel things, just loud enough for her to hear. "No wonder no one wanted her," Margaret said once at dinner. "Look at her, plain as porridge and twice as dull." Clara had learned to stay silent, to make herself invisible, to accept every insult with a bowed head and quiet dignity. Then her mother got sick. Consumption. The doctor said she needed medicine. good food, rest and warm rooms. Uncle Gerald refused to pay for any of it. "I've done enough," he said coldly. "She can manage with what we provide or not manage at all. It's no concern of mine." That was when Clara knew she had to leave. She had to find work. Real work. That paid money. Money for medicine. Money to save her mother's life. The governess position at Blackwood Manor had been a miracle. The pay was generous. The duties were light. Lord Blackwood was rarely home, and his daughter Isabel was a sweet child, hungry for affection. Clara sent every penny she could spare to her mother. It still wasn't enough. The letters from Uncle Gerald made that clear. Her mother was getting worse. She needed more. Always more. And Clara had nothing left to give. She stood at the nursery window now and watched the rain streak down the glass. Below, Lord Blackwood's black horse was being led to the stables. He must have gone back out, running from whatever demons had driven him to that outburst. She understood running from demons. She had plenty of her own. "Miss Clara?" Isabel's small voice broke through her thoughts. "Are you sad?" Clara turned and forced a smile. The 8-year-old girl sat at her desk with her reading book open. She had her father's dark hair and her dead mother's gentle eyes. She was watching Clara with such concern that it made Clara's throat tight. "No, darling," Clara lied gently. "Just thinking. Shall we continue your lesson?" But Isabel stood and came to her instead. The child wrapped her thin arms around Clara's waist and hugged her tight. Clara's eyes burned with sudden tears. "Papa gets sad too," Isabel whispered against Clara's dress. "I see him sometimes. Late at night. He walks in the garden and looks up at Mama's window. He thinks no one knows. But I know." Clara's heart cracked a little wider. She stroked Isabel's soft hair and said nothing. What could she say? That grief was a terrible companion. That loss left holes in the soul that never quite healed. That loneliness could eat you alive from the inside out. An 8-year-old child didn't need to hear such truths, even if she already knew them. "Your papa loves you very much," Clara said, instead. It was true. She saw it in the way Lord Blackwood looked at his daughter, in the gifts he brought back from his travels, in the way his voice softened whenever he spoke her name. "I know," Isabel said, "but he's still sad. And so are you. Maybe you could be sad together. Then you wouldn't be lonely anymore." The innocent wisdom of it nearly broke Clara completely. She blinked back tears and hugged the child closer. "The world doesn't work that way, sweetheart," she whispered. "Sometimes sad people have to stay separate, even when being together might help." She didn't add that a nobleman and a governess lived in completely different worlds, that he would never see her as anything but a servant, that her dreams of love and companionship had died the day her father's debts came to light. Some truths were too bitter to speak aloud. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She lay in her small room under the eaves and listened to the old house settle around her. Rain still pattered against her window. Wind rattled the glass in its frame. She thought about Lord Blackwood's hand on her arm, the warmth of his fingers, the unexpected gentleness in his apology. "Stop it," she told herself firmly. "Stop being a fool." But her traitorous heart wouldn't listen. It kept returning to that moment in the study, to the way he had looked at her, really looked at her. Like she was a person instead of furniture. She had spent so long being invisible that being seen felt dangerous, thrilling, terrifying. Sleep finally came near dawn. When it did, she dreamed of storm-grey eyes and gentle touches and things that could never be. Lord Marcus Blackwood sat in his study with a bottle of brandy and a head full of ghosts. His wife had been dead for 3 years, and the grief still ambushed him at unexpected moments. Today it had been a letter, just a simple letter, from his late wife's sister. Nothing dramatic, just news about family. But it had contained a sketch, a drawing of Elizabeth that he had never seen before. His wife laughing, her head thrown back, joy radiating from every line. He couldn't remember the last time she had laughed like that. Before she got sick. Certainly, before the consumption took her piece by piece. Before she became a ghost in her own body. He had loved her desperately, married her when they were both young and full of hope. They had been happy. He was certain they had been happy. But now his memories felt thin, faded, like watercolors left too long in the sun. Marcus drank more brandy and tried not to think about how empty his life had become. He had wealth. He had title. He had a beautiful daughter and loyal servants and a grand estate. He had nothing that mattered. His friends urged him to remarry. Society matrons paraded their daughters before him at every opportunity. Beautiful girls with perfect manners and empty eyes. Girls who wanted his title, his money, his position. Not him. Never him. So he stayed alone. He threw himself into managing his estates. He traveled. He rode for hours across his lands until exhaustion finally brought him a few hours of dreamless sleep. And he tried very hard not to notice that he was becoming a shell of a man, going through motions. Existing but not living. Tonight, in his study, he remembered the governess, Miss Hartley, Clara. Her name was Clara. He had been cruel to her, barking orders like she was less than human. Then he had touched her arm to apologize and felt her tremble, seen her wide eyes. Her pale face, the way she had looked at him like he held the power to break her. It had made him feel monstrous. She was a quiet thing. He barely noticed her around the house. She kept Isabel happy and educated. She never made demands or drew attention. She was efficient and invisible. But today he had seen her, really seen her, and he had noticed things. The way her worn dress was carefully mended. The grace in her movements despite her obvious nervousness. The intelligence in her eyes. The way she had whispered, "We all have difficult days," with such understanding that it had hit him like a punch to the chest. She knew pain. He could see it in her, recognized it because he carried his own. Marcus poured another brandy and stared into the fire. He was 32 years old and felt ancient, worn down, used up. Maybe this was all life had left for him. Maybe he was meant to drift through his remaining years like a ghost in his own house. The thought should have comforted him. Instead, it made him unspeakably sad. Somewhere above him, in the servants' quarters, Clara Hartley probably slept. Did she dream? Did she have hopes and wishes? Did she ever wonder if life might surprise her with something better? Marcus closed his eyes and tried to imagine having hope again, believing in possibilities, feeling something other than this endless grey numbness. He couldn't do it. The muscle memory of joy had atrophied from disuse. But as he finally climbed the stairs to his cold, empty bedroom, he found himself thinking about trembling hands and understanding eyes, about a woman who knew difficult days. And for just a moment, the loneliness felt a little less crushing. The next morning brought chaos. Isabel woke with a fever. Not dangerously high, but enough to worry. Clara sat by the child's bedside and bathed her forehead with cool cloth. She sang soft songs. She held small hot hands and made up stories about princesses and dragons. Lord Blackwood appeared in the doorway near midday. Clara looked up, startled. He never came to the nursery, never involved himself in the day-to-day care of his daughter. That was what servants were for. But here he stood. His face was drawn with worry. His hair was disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. "How is she?" His voice was rough with concern. "The fever is mild, my lord," Clara assured him quickly. "Children often get these passing illnesses. She should be well in a day or two." He came into the room, crossed to the bed, sat on the edge, and looked down at Isabel's flushed face with such raw love that Clara had to look away. It felt too private, too intimate. "Papa?" Isabel's eyes fluttered open. "You're here?" "Of course I'm here, little one." He touched her cheek gently. "Miss Hartley tells me you're not feeling well." "My head hurts," Isabel complained. "And I'm hot." "I know, but Miss Hartley will take good care of you. Won't you, Miss Hartley?" He looked at Clara as he said it. Their eyes met across the bed. Something passed between them. An understanding, a shared concern for this child they both loved. "Of course, my lord," Clara said softly. "I won't leave her." "Thank you." He said it like he meant it. Like she was doing something extraordinary instead of just her job. "I will have cook send up broth and fresh water, whatever you need." "That is very kind." He stood, but didn't leave. He hovered awkwardly by the bed. His big hands hung useless at his sides. Clara realized he wanted to stay, but didn't know how, didn't know what to do with his worry and his love. "You could read to her," Clara suggested gently. "She loves stories. They help her rest." Relief flooded his face. He nodded eagerly and picked up the book from Isabel's bedside table. Clara moved to the chair by the window to give them space. She picked up her mending and pretended not to listen, but she heard every word. Lord Blackwood read with surprising expression. He did different voices for the characters. He made Isabel giggle despite her fever. And when the child finally drifted off to sleep, he kept reading anyway, his voice low and soothing, like he needed the comfort as much as his daughter. Clara's hands stilled on her mending. She watched him in the soft afternoon light. This powerful man rendered gentle by love for his child. This lonely widower who didn't know how to be anything but distant. Her heart did something dangerous. It softened. It reached out. It wondered. "Miss Hartley?" He was looking at her now. The book closed in his lap. "Yes, my lord." "How long have you been with us?" 3 months, my lord." 3 months, he repeated. "And I have barely spoken to you. I did not even know your first name until yesterday." Clara didn't know what to say to that. She kept her eyes on her mending. "You are a busy man, my lord. The estate takes much of your time. That is not an excuse for rudeness." He paused. "Your name is Clara." "Yes, my lord." "It suits you." He said it quietly, almost to himself. "Have you family, Miss Hartley?" The question caught her off guard. Employers never asked about her personal life, never cared about who she was beyond her duties. "My mother, my lord. She lives with my uncle." "And your father?" "He passed 2 years ago." "I am sorry." More silence. Then, "Were you close?" "Very close, my lord." Her throat tightened. "He was a good man. Kind. He loved books and gardens and terrible jokes. He made everything feel safe." She didn't know why she was telling him this, why the words were spilling out, but something in his face invited confidence, made her forget to be guarded. "You must miss him terribly," Lord Blackwood said. "Every day." The admission hurt. Some losses never quite heal. "No," he agreed. "They don't." They sat in silence after that. But it was comfortable, shared. 2 people who understood grief, keeping vigil over a sleeping child. When evening came, Lord Blackwood finally left, but not before thanking Clara again, not before touching her shoulder briefly in passing. Just a moment, just a gentle pressure of his hand. But Clara felt that touch for hours afterward, felt it like a brand, like a promise, like the beginning of something she was terrified to name. Isabel recovered quickly. Within 2 days, she was bouncing around the nursery, demanding lessons and treats. Clara resumed the normal routine with relief. Sick children were always worrying, but something had shifted. Lord Blackwood didn't disappear back into his usual absence. He came to the nursery every day, sometimes twice a day. He asked about Isabel's lessons. He listened to her recite her letters. He praised her drawings and her needlework, and he talked to Clara. Not long conversations, just small exchanges, questions about her day, comments about the weather. Once, he brought her a book he thought she might enjoy. "I noticed you reading poetry," he said almost shyly. "I thought you might like this collection. It was my wife's favorite." Clara took the book with trembling hands. It was a precious gift. She could see how worn the cover was, how loved it had been. "I couldn't possibly accept this, my lord," she protested. "It was your wife's, which is exactly why I want you to have it." His grey eyes were steady on hers. She would want it to be read, to be loved, not gathering dust on a shelf. "Please, it would make me happy to know someone is enjoying it." So Clara accepted. She read the poems late at night in her small room, and she thought about a man who gave away treasured things because he wanted them to bring joy to someone else. She was falling. She knew it. Knew she should stop. Knew this path led only to heartbreak. But she was powerless to resist. For the first time in years, someone saw her. Someone spoke to her like she mattered. Someone treated her with kindness and respect. It was intoxicating, dangerous, inevitable. The household staff noticed. Of course they noticed. Servants always knew everything. "His lordship has been different lately," Mrs. Davies, the housekeeper, commented to Clara one afternoon. "Lighter, somehow. He smiles more. He doesn't lock himself in his study for days." "Perhaps he is healing," Clara suggested carefully. "Time does help with grief. Perhaps." Mrs. Davies gave her a knowing look. "Or perhaps it's something else, someone else." Clara's cheeks burned. She busied herself with folding linens and didn't respond. But she thought about those words for days afterward. Someone else. Could she be someone else to him? Could a governess matter to a lord? No. It was impossible. She was being foolish. He was just being kind, grateful for her care of his daughter. Nothing more. She repeated these truths to herself every night. Every time her heart leaped at the sound of his footsteps. Every time she caught herself watching for him. But her treacherous heart refused to listen. It kept hoping, kept dreaming, kept reaching for something that could never be hers. One rainy afternoon, everything changed. Clara was in the library looking for a new book for Isabel's lessons. She was standing on the ladder, reaching for a high shelf, when her foot slipped. She fell. For a breathless moment, she was weightless, tumbling through air, bracing for impact. But impact never came. Strong arms caught her, pulled her against a solid chest, held her safe. She looked up into Lord Blackwood's face. He had appeared from nowhere, moved faster than should be possible. Now he held her like she weighed nothing. His arms were tight around her. His heart thundered against her cheek. "Are you hurt?" His voice was sharp with panic. "Clara, are you hurt?" It was the first time he had used her first name. It sent shivers down her spine. "No," she managed. "I'm fine, thank you. "You can put me down now." But he didn't. Not immediately. He stood there holding her. His eyes searched her face. His breathing was ragged. And in that moment, Clara saw something in his expression that made her blood sing. Hunger. Longing. Fear. Not the look of an employer for his servant. The look of a man for a woman. "Marcus," he said hoarsely. "When we're alone, call me Marcus." Then he set her down very carefully. His hands lingered on her waist for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. Then he stepped back, ran a hand through his hair, looked everywhere but at her. "I apologize," he said stiffly. "That was inappropriate." "You saved me from falling," Clara said. Her voice shook. "There's nothing to apologize for." Still, he cleared his throat. "I should go. I have estate business to attend to." He left quickly, almost fleeing. Clara stood in the empty library with her heart racing and her skin still tingling where he'd touched her. Marcus, she thought. His name was Marcus, and he had looked at her like she was something precious, something desired. It changed everything and nothing, because desire didn't change their positions in life, didn't make the impossible suddenly possible, but it made Clara hope. And hope was the most dangerous thing of all. Marcus was losing his mind. There was no other explanation. He had held Clara Hartley in his arms and felt his world shift on its axis. She was his daughter's governess, an employee, a woman under his protection. He had no right to think about her the way he'd been thinking about her. But he couldn't stop. He saw her everywhere, in every room, behind his closed eyelids, when he tried to sleep. Her soft brown hair that always threatened to escape its pins, her gentle grey-blue eyes, her quiet strength, her kindness, the way she had felt in his arms, small and soft and perfect. He had been dead for 3 years. A walking corpse, going through motions without feeling anything. Now he felt too much, everything. It was overwhelming and terrifying and exhilarating. He wanted to talk to her, to hear her quiet voice, to watch her smile. He wanted to know everything about her, her favorite color, her dreams, what made her laugh, what made her cry. He wanted to touch her again, to hold her, to feel her tremble against him, to know if she felt even a fraction of this madness that consumed him. But it was impossible. She was a governess, he was a lord. The social gulf between them was insurmountable. Except maybe it wasn't. He was a widower. He had no parents to disappoint, no one to answer to, except himself and his conscience. If he wanted to defy society and court his daughter's governess, who could stop him? Everyone, came the bitter answer. Society would destroy her. His peers would cut him. Isabel might suffer for his scandal. But when he thought about continuing this half-life without Clara in it, something in him rebelled. He had been lonely for so long, empty for so long, dead for so long. She made him want to live again, feel again, be human again. That had to be worth something, worth fighting for, worth risking for. Marcus stood at his bedroom window and looked out at the rain-soaked gardens. Somewhere in this house, Clara was probably reading to Isabel, or mending clothes, or doing any of the 100 quiet things she did to make their lives better. He wanted to go to her, to tell her everything he was feeling, to ask if she might possibly feel the same. But he was a coward. He had been brave once, when he was young and courted Elizabeth, when he built his life and his fortune, when he became the man he thought he should be. But grief had hollowed him out, made him afraid, made him forget how to be brave. Maybe it was time to remember. Maybe it was time to take a risk, to reach for something real instead of hiding in his empty rooms. Maybe it was time to live again. The decision settled over him like a benediction. Yes, he would court her, carefully, respectfully. He would give her every chance to refuse. But he would try, because the alternative was unthinkable. Spending the rest of his life wondering what might have been, letting this fragile, precious feeling wither and die because he was too afraid to nurture it. Marcus had lost too much already. He wasn't going to lose this too. Not without a fight. Tomorrow, he decided, tomorrow he would begin. He would find a way to show Clara Hartley that she mattered, that she was seen, that she was treasured. And maybe, if he was very lucky, she would give him a chance. Give them a chance. The thought made him smile for the first time in weeks. A real smile, full of hope and possibility and terrifying joy. Tomorrow, everything would change tomorrow. Clara received the letter at breakfast. A footman brought it to her in the nursery, where she was helping Isabel with her morning meal. The handwriting on the envelope was unfamiliar. The seal was from her uncle's estate. Dread filled her stomach, like cold lead. She set down her teacup with shaking hands. "Excuse me, darling," she murmured to Isabel. "I need to read this. Keep eating your porridge." She moved to the window, broke the seal, unfolded the paper with fingers that wouldn't quite cooperate. The words blurred, then sharpened into terrible focus. Her mother was dead, passed 3 days ago. Consumption finally claimed her. The funeral had already happened. Uncle Gerald hadn't even sent for Clara, hadn't given her a chance to say goodbye. There was more. Cold, clinical words about Clara's future, or lack of it. She was no longer welcome at her uncle's house. Her mother had been the only reason they tolerated her presence. Now that she was gone, Clara had no claim on their charity. She was cast out, alone, with nowhere to go except the job she currently held. If she lost this position, she would have nothing. With nothing. End up on the streets, or in the poorhouse. A cautionary tale about fallen gentlewomen. The letter slipped from Clara's numb fingers. It fluttered to the floor like a dead bird. Her mother was gone. The last person in the world who loved her. The last connection to her old life. Her father. Her happy childhood. Everything. Gone. "Miss Clara?" Isabel's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Why are you crying?" Clara touched her face. Her fingers came away wet. She hadn't even realized she was weeping. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," she managed to say. Her voice sounded strange, hollow. "I just received sad news. My mother has passed away," Isabel gasped. She scrambled out of her chair and ran to Clara, wrapped her small arms around Clara's waist. "I'm so sorry. I know how that hurts. I miss my mama every day." The child's sympathy broke something in Clara. She sank to her knees and held Isabel close, buried her face in the girl's soft hair, let herself cry, really cry, great wrenching sobs that shook her entire body. She had been so strong for so long, endured so much, borne every insult and indignity with quiet grace. But this was too much. This was the final straw that broke her. She cried until she had no tears left, until she was empty and numb and exhausted. Isabel stayed with her the whole time, patting her back, whispering comfort, being braver than an 8-year-old should have to be. Eventually, Clara pulled herself together. She washed her face, dried her eyes, resumed the day's routine, because what else could she do? Life went on. Even when you wanted it to stop. Even when grief threatened to swallow you whole. But everything felt grey now, colourless, pointless. Her mother was dead. She was truly alone in the world, and even the tentative happiness she'd been building here felt impossible now. How could she hope for anything when loss took everything? Marcus knew something was wrong the moment he saw Clara. She moved through the house like a ghost. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red and swollen. She performed her duties mechanically, without her usual warmth. He caught Mrs. Davies in the hallway. "What happened? Is Miss Hartley ill?" "She received terrible news this morning, my lord." The housekeeper's face was sympathetic. "Her mother passed away 3 days ago. The poor dear didn't even get to say goodbye." Marcus felt like someone had punched him in the chest. Her mother, dead, and Clara had borne the news alone, comforted only by an 8-year-old child. He should have been there, should have held her, should have offered comfort, but he had no right to that. No claim on her grief. He was her employer. Nothing more, no matter how much he wanted to be. Still, he couldn't leave her alone in her pain. That would be cruel, inhuman. He found her in the nursery that evening after Isabel was asleep. She sat by the window, staring out at nothing. Her hands were folded in her lap. She didn't even notice him enter. "Clara," he said her name softly. She startled and turned, scrambled to stand, to curtsy, to remember her place. "My lord, I apologize. I didn't hear you come in." "Sit," he commanded gently. "Please, I just want to talk." She sat, perched on the edge of the chair like a bird ready to take flight. He pulled another chair close, sat across from her. Their knees almost touched. "I heard about your mother," he said. "I am so very sorry, Clara. I know what it is to lose someone you love. I know how it feels like the world should stop, how every breath hurts, how nothing makes sense anymore." Her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink them back, failed. They spilled down her cheeks in silver tracks. "I didn't get to say goodbye," she whispered brokenly. "They didn't even tell me she was dying. They just buried her and sent me a letter, like she was nothing, like I was nothing. And now I have no one. I'm completely alone." Marcus couldn't bear it anymore. He reached out and took her hands in his. They were cold and small and trembling. He wrapped his warmth around them and held on tight. "You're not alone," he said fiercely. "You have Isabel. She loves you, and you have me. If you want, I know I have no right to offer you anything, but I can offer you friendship, comfort, someone who understands. Please, let me help you through this." Clara stared at their joined hands, then at his face, searching for something. Sincerity, perhaps, or truth. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Her voice was barely audible. "I'm just a governess. I'm nothing. No one. Why do you care?" "Because you matter," the words burst out of him with desperate intensity. "Because you're not nothing. Because from the moment I really saw you, I haven't been able to stop seeing you. Because when you hurt, I hurt. Because you make me feel alive again after years of being dead. Because I care about you, Clara, more than I should, more than is proper. But I can't help it. I care." Silence stretched between them. Clara's eyes were huge, shocked, disbelieving. "You can't mean that," she finally whispered. "You're a lord, I'm a governess. We live in different worlds. Then maybe it's time those worlds met," Marcus said. "Maybe it's time to stop letting society dictate who we can care about, who we can spend time with. Maybe it's time to be brave." "Brave?" Clara repeated. A sad smile touched her lips. "I'm not brave. I'm the opposite. I've spent years making myself small, invisible, accepting whatever scraps of kindness people threw my way. I don't know how to be brave." "Then let me be brave for both of us." Marcus raised one of her hands to his lips, pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. Let me show you that you deserve more than scraps. That you deserve to be treasured, cherished, loved. Clara made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. This is madness. I know, Marcus smiled, but it's the best kind of madness, the kind that makes life worth living. He stood then, released her hands, gave her space to think, to feel, to decide. I won't push you, he said. I won't use my position to pressure you. If you want me to go back to being just your employer, I will. But if you want more, if you feel even a fraction of what I feel, then give me a chance. Let me court you properly. Let me show you what you've come to mean to me. He left before she could answer, left her alone with her grief and her shock and his impossible offer. And he prayed. For the first time in 3 years, Marcus Blackwood prayed that she would be brave, prayed that she would give them a chance, prayed that hope wasn't just another way to invite more pain. Clara didn't sleep that night. She lay in her narrow bed and replayed Marcus's words over and over. He cared about her, wanted to court her, called her treasured and cherished. It was insane, impossible, everything she had never dared to dream, and she wanted it so desperately it terrified her. She wanted to believe him, to trust him, to let herself hope that maybe, just maybe, she could have something good, someone who saw her and wanted her anyway. But fear held her back. Fear of being hurt. Fear of losing her position if this went wrong. Fear of society's judgment. Fear of her own inadequacy. What did she have to offer a man like Marcus Blackwood? She was poor, plain, damaged. A charity case with no family and no prospects. He could have anyone. Beautiful society ladies with impeccable breeding and generous dowries. Why would he choose her? Unless he didn't really care. Unless this was just loneliness talking, or worse, just desire. Something temporary that would fade once the novelty wore off. Clara had seen what happened to women who trusted men above their station. They were used and discarded, left ruined and disgraced. But even as doubt gnawed at her, another voice whispered different truths. Marcus had been nothing but kind, patient, respectful. He had asked, not demanded, offered, not taken. And when he had held her hands and looked into her eyes, she had seen something real there, something deep and true and precious. Maybe he did care. Maybe this wasn't madness. Maybe this was her chance at happiness, her one shot at having something beautiful in a life that had been mostly pain. Did she dare take it? Did she dare be brave enough to hope? Her mother's face swam in her memory. Her mother who had loved her father with everything she had, who had chosen love even though it led to poverty and hardship, who had told Clara over and over that love was worth any price. Be brave, my darling, her mother had said once. Don't let fear steal your chance at joy. Life is too short and too hard. When you find something real, hold on to it with both hands. Don't let go. Clara closed her eyes, made her decision. Tomorrow she would tell Marcus yes, yes to courtship, yes to hope, yes to the terrifying possibility of love. She would be brave for herself, for her mother's memory, for the chance at the life she had always wanted. Even if it ended in heartbreak, at least she would have tried. At least she would have reached for happiness instead of accepting misery. That had to count for something. It had to be enough. The next few weeks passed in a blur of stolen moments and careful propriety. Marcus courted Clara with old-fashioned devotion. He brought her wild flowers from the estate. He sat with her and Isabel during lessons. He took them on walks through the gardens, pointing out plants and telling stories. He gave her books. He asked her opinions. He listened when she talked like every word mattered. And slowly, carefully, Clara began to bloom. The grief over her mother never fully left, but it became bearable, woven into the fabric of her days rather than consuming them. She laughed more, smiled more, let herself be happy, let herself believe this might actually be real. Marcus was different too, lighter, more present. He spent less time locked in his study and more time with his daughter. With Clara, he smiled readily, joked, showed a warmth that had been buried under years of grief. The household noticed. Whispers followed them. Some kind, some concerned, some scandalized. "It's not proper," the head footman muttered. "A lord and a governess. It'll end badly." But Mrs. Davies defended them. "He's happy. For the first time since her ladyship passed, he's truly happy. Who are we to judge?" Isabel was delighted. She saw Clara and her father growing closer and radiated joy. She started calling Clara almost Mama when she thought no one could hear. It made Clara's heart ache with hope and fear in equal measure. One evening, Marcus took Clara walking in the rose garden. The sun was setting. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. The air was warm and sweet with flower scent. "I love you," Marcus said suddenly. They were standing by the fountain. His hands held hers. His eyes were steady and sure. "I know it's too soon. I know I should wait longer before saying it. But I need you to know. I love you, Clara Hartley, not as a distraction from grief, not as a replacement for Elizabeth. I love you as yourself, for exactly who you are." Clara's breath caught. Tears filled her eyes. Happy tears this time. Joyful tears. "I love you too," she whispered. "I've tried not to. I've tried to be sensible, but I can't help it. I love you, Marcus, so much it scares me." He pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her, held her like she was precious, irreplaceable. "Don't be scared," he murmured against her hair. "I've got you. I won't let you fall. I won't let anything hurt you." Then he tilted her chin up, looked into her eyes, and kissed her, soft and sweet and reverent. A kiss that tasted like promise, like forever, like coming home. Clara kissed him back, poured everything she felt into it, all her love and hope and desperate gratitude. She had been so lost, so alone, and he had found her, saved her, given her reasons to believe in happiness again. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Marcus rested his forehead against hers. His hands framed her face. His thumbs stroked her cheeks. "Marry me," he said. "I know society will talk. I know there will be challenges, but I don't care. I want you as my wife, my partner, the mother to my daughter, the love of my life. Say yes, Clara. Please say yes." Clara wanted to do. God, she wanted to so badly. But reality intruded, cold and harsh. "Your family," she said. "Your position in society. They'll never accept me. I'll ruin you." "You won't ruin me. You'll save me." Marcus was fierce now, determined. "I don't care what society thinks. I don't care if they cut me. I have wealth enough to weather any scandal. And I have you. That's all I need." "What about Isabel? She could suffer for our choices." "Isabel adores you. She wants you for her mother. She told me so herself, and I will protect her from any gossip. I swear it. Please, Clara, don't let fear steal this from us. Be brave. Say yes." Clara looked into his eyes, saw love there, real love, steady and sure and strong enough to weather any storm. She thought about her mother, about choosing love despite the cost, about being brave. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Marcus's face transformed. Joy radiated from every feature. He swept her up in his arms and spun her around. She laughed, clung to his shoulders, felt dizzy and light and impossibly happy. "I love you," he said again, kissed her again. "I love you so much." "I love you too," Clara said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. They were going to be happy. Despite everything, despite society, despite fear and doubt and loss, they were going to be happy together. And that was worth everything, worth any price, worth being brave for. The announcement of their engagement caused exactly the scandal Marcus had predicted. His peers were shocked. Society matrons were outraged. Invitations dried up. Whispers followed them everywhere. But Marcus didn't care. He held Clara's hand in public, introduced her as his betrothed with pride in his voice. Dared anyone to insult her in his presence. Most people were too cowardly to challenge him directly, but one person wasn't. Lady Catherine Ashford, Marcus's late wife's oldest friend, a woman who had always assumed she would be his second wife. She came to Blackwood Manor 3 days after the announcement, demanded an audience, swept into the drawing room like an avenging angel. Clara was there. Marcus had insisted. He wouldn't hide her away or pretend she didn't matter. "This is madness, Marcus," Lady Catherine announced without preamble. "An absolute madness. You cannot possibly marry your daughter's governess. Think of Elizabeth. Think of your daughter. Think of your name and position." "I have thought of all those things," Marcus said calmly, "and my decision stands. I love Miss Hartley. I am going to marry her. That is not open for discussion." "Love." Lady Catherine said it like a curse. "You think love is enough? You think it will shield you from society's censure? You're destroying yourself, destroying Isabel's prospects. And for what? A pretty face that caught your eye? That's enough." Marcus's voice went cold. "You will not speak of Clara that way. You will not question my judgment or my love. I understand you're concerned, but this is my choice, my life, and I ask that you respect it." "Respect it?" Lady Catherine laughed bitterly. "How can I respect something so foolish? Elizabeth would be devastated, watching you throw away everything for a servant." Clara had been silent through the confrontation, but at the mention of Marcus's late wife, something in her snapped. All the fear and insecurity rose up. What if Lady Catherine was right? What if she was being selfish? What if she was ruining the man she loved? "Perhaps Lady Catherine is right," Clara said quietly. Every eye turned to her. "Perhaps this is a mistake. I don't want to ruin you, Marcus, or harm Isabel. Maybe we should reconsider." "No." Marcus was at her side instantly. He took her hands, looked into her eyes with such intensity it took her breath away. "No, Clara, don't do this. Don't let fear win. Don't let society steal what we have. But she's right. I'm not good enough for you. I'll only bring you pain and scandal and regret." "You bring me joy," Marcus said fiercely. "You bring me life and love and hope. You are exactly good enough. More than good enough. You are everything, and I will not let you go. Not for society. Not for scandal. Not for anything." He turned to Lady Catherine. His face was hard. "You need to leave. Now, you are no longer welcome in this house. Not until you can accept Clara as my future wife and treat her with the respect she deserves." Lady Catherine gaped at him, then her face twisted with anger. "You'll regret this, Marcus. Mark my words. You'll regret choosing her over your rightful place in society. The only thing I would regret is letting her go. Marcus said. Now leave, before I have you escorted out. Lady Catherine left in a storm of outrage. The door slammed behind her. Silence filled the drawing room. Clara was shaking. Marcus pulled her into his arms, held her tight. Let her feel his strength, his certainty, his love. I'm sorry, she whispered against his chest. I'm sorry I doubted us. I'm sorry I'm not stronger. You are the strongest person I know, Marcus said. You've survived things that would have broken others. You've kept your kindness and your hope, despite cruelty and loss. You are magnificent, Clara. Don't ever doubt that. I'm scared, she admitted. Scared of failing you, of not being enough, of losing you. You won't lose me, I promise. We're in this together. Whatever comes, we face it side by side. I love you. That's not going to change because of gossip or scandal. I love you, always, forever. Clara looked up at him, saw the truth in his eyes, the absolute certainty, and she made herself believe it, made herself trust it. I love you too, she said. Always, forever. They kissed then, deep and passionate and full of promise. A kiss that said they would weather any storm, survive any challenge, because they had each other, and that was enough. It had to be enough. It was everything. The wedding was small and intimate. Just Isabel, Mrs. Davies, and a handful of loyal servants. No grand society affair. No hundreds of guests. Just the people who genuinely cared. Clara wore a simple white dress. Nothing fancy, but Marcus looked at her like she was wearing the finest silk and jewels, like she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. You're stunning, he breathed when he saw her. Absolutely stunning. The ceremony was short. The vicar spoke the traditional words. Marcus and Clara exchanged vows, promised to love and honor, to stay together through joy and sorrow, through plenty and want, through all the days of their lives. When the vicar pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus kissed her with such tenderness that Clara's eyes filled with tears. Happy tears. Grateful tears. She was married. She was a wife. She belonged to someone who loved her. It felt like a miracle, like a dream she was afraid to wake from. The wedding breakfast was a cheerful affair. Mrs. Davies had prepared all of Clara's favorite foods. Isabel was radiant in her bridesmaid dress. She chattered happily about how she finally had a real mother again. Will you read to me tonight, Mama Clara? Isabel asked. She had taken to calling Clara Mama Clara as a compromise. Clara's heart swelled every time she heard it. Of course, sweetheart, Clara said. Every night, for as long as you want. Later, when the celebrations were done and Isabel was in bed, Marcus led Clara to the master bedroom, their bedroom now. The room they would share as husband and wife. Clara's nerves came rushing back. She stood in the middle of the opulent room and felt very small, very out of place. Marcus seemed to sense her anxiety. He came to her, took her hands, kissed them gently. We don't have to do anything tonight, he said softly. I just want to hold you, to know you're mine. That you're safe, that you're here to stay. Clara looked at him. This man who had chosen her, who had defied society for her, who loved her despite all her flaws and fears, and she felt her anxiety melt away. I want to be your wife, she said. In every way I trust you, Marcus. I love you. I love you too, he murmured. Then he kissed her, slow and deep and full of promise. My Clara, my wife, my love. He was gentle, so gentle, like she was something precious, something to be treasured. He made her feel beautiful, wanted, cherished. And when they finally came together, it was everything Clara had dreamed of. It was love and passion and connection. It was two lonely souls finding home in each other. It was perfect. Afterward, they lay tangled together. Clara's head rested on Marcus's chest. She could hear his heartbeat, strong and steady. The most beautiful sound in the world. "I never thought I could be this happy," she whispered. "I never thought I deserved it." "You deserve everything," Marcus said. He stroked her hair, kissed her forehead. "And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you know it. Making sure you feel loved and safe and cherished. Every single day." "You already do," Clara said. "You saved me, Marcus, from loneliness, from fear, from a life of nothing. You gave me everything." "You saved me too," Marcus said. "From grief, from emptiness, from existing instead of living. We saved each other, Clara. That's what love does." Clara smiled, pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his heart. "Then we're very lucky to have found each other, to have been brave enough to hope." "The luckiest," Marcus agreed, "the very luckiest." They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other's arms, safe and warm and loved. Two people who had been broken finding wholeness together, and they lived happily ever after. Not because their lives became perfect, not because society suddenly accepted them, but because they had each other. Because they chose love over fear. Because they were brave enough to believe in second chances. And that, in the end, was everything. It was enough. It was more than enough. It was a miracle. A gift. A happily ever after earned through courage and hope and love. The kind of love that transforms, the kind that heals, the kind that makes everything worth it. Every pain, every struggle, every moment of doubt, because it led them here. Together. Home. Forever.